by a state or other authority. Crime or offense is an act harmful not only to some individual, but also to a community, society, or the state. Such acts are forbidden and punishable by law. Police and law and order are state subjects under the 7th schedule to the Constitution of India, and therefore it is the primary duty of the state governments to prevent, detect, register, and investigate crime and prosecute the criminals. Indian law is enforced by a number of agencies. Like many federal nations, the Constitution of India delegates the maintenance of law and order primarily to the states and territories. The state government has the power to severely restrict one's liberty for committing a crime. In modern societies, there are procedures to which investigations and trials must adhere. If found guilty, an offender may be sentenced to undergo imprisonment, life imprisonment, or in some jurisdictions, execution. The rate of crime increased once the lockdown eased. Just to give example of Rajasthan, in April 2020, there were murder cases of 89, while in May 2020, it has increased to 184, the difference of 106.74%. Or in attempt to murder, April 2020, 132, in May 2020, 206, increase of 56.06%. Dacoity from 5 to 8, that is increment of 60%. I am giving the figures April 2020 versus May 2020. So May 2020, the increase it shows. Loot, 31 in April, 44 in May. Abduction, 164 in April, 375 in May. That is an increase of 128.66%. Rape, 193 in April, 384 in May, increase of 98.96. Rioting, 14 in April, 56 in May, that is 300% increment. Robbery, 221 in April, 323 in May, that is 46.15%. Theft, 559 in April, 1158 in 1158 in May, that is an increment of 107.16%. And others, 6302 in April and 11169, that is 11,169 in May, increment of 77.23. Total crimes in April was 7,710, while in May it was 13,907, an increment of 80.38% only in 1 month, first month of unlock from April to May. Just to give an example, I got the figures of Rajasthan. Other states have not uploaded, so I cannot give those figures. These are authentic figures which has been uploaded by the Rajasthan government. Now, how will COVID-19 affect future law enforcement, and how will new patterns of crime be managed, especially given that the virus is here to stay for a long time? And today, to discuss this, we have a very elite panel with us. We have the psychiatrist, we have a former ADGP, we have a serving police officer, and we have a leading advocate with us. I would like to invite my first guest. He is Dr. Rajiv Anand. Dr. Rajiv Anand is the senior psychiatrist and marriage counselor. Dr. Rajiv Anand passed his MBBS in 1976 and did MD in psychiatry in 1980 from King's George Medical College, Lucknow. He opted to serve his country when it was very common to settle abroad for a brighter future. He has been serving society with his base in Bombay. He has clients all over India as well as in many other countries. He was honored with Lifetime Achievement Award by AMA. He has conducted more than 3,000 workshops for different groups and companies with audience size of 10 to 800. His television program on various channels have been widely appreciated for his forthright and practical approach. He is leading in the field of mental and emotional well-being for 40 years. He was president of IMA for 2 times. He was interviewed in several talk shows, domestic and internationally. Welcome, Dr. Rajiv Anand, on our show. Uh, Dr. Anand, as I read the report, which says the increase, although there is only one state's figure is there, but even if we take that figure as authentic, it shows that about 80% increase in the crime rate in the very first down when it was opened. Unlock, I will say. Now, if this is the trend, do you think, we would like to know your views being a psychiatrist, why it is happening, what is the reason according to you? So COVID-19 impact on crime, Dr. Rajiv Anand, please.
Good morning, viewers, and good morning, Mr. Goel and my fellow panelists, Mr. Kulshesh, Mr. Puneet Trivedi, and Mr. Ashwarya, and the viewers across different states. I'm really interested. I'm really impressed as well as surprised that Mr. Goel has dug out very pertinent data about the considerable increase in the crime rate in the first month of the unlock process, which is interesting. But I also hope so that these statistics are pertaining to the small crimes. And the basis of my saying so is this: the crime, there are big, as there would be greater elaboration on this crime scene by my advocate co-panelists over here, police officers, retired additional director. But I'm giving my few bites on this matter. That bigger crimes one side, a smaller crime on one side. Society as large has defined the word crime. What does not suit majority, that is considered crime. An individual who usurps the right of the majority is considered to be doing crime. That's one point. Indian penal code system, in national legal system, police authority, they are doing wonderful job in implementing the existing laws. There is no dispute about it. But we also have to agree that over the time, be the time over decades or maybe more decades, the definition of the crime would keep on changing. I just read about half an hour back in the newspaper that 62% of the women, they do sex texting on the mobile smartphone. 21%, one out of five women use a smartphone to make friends with strangers. Now, could we have thought about, many of us who belong to this country's culture, we all have heard about कि पराये मर्द से बात करना बिल्कुल गलत माना जाता था. किसी के साथ सेक्स की बात करना almost semi-crime था. But hasn't that changed? Day in and day out, all of us who are watching TV, we are hearing the word about drug consumption in this industry or in that industry, or the conversion of this color of money to that color of man, or the abuse of power to torment, harass. Now, all these things which used to be much bigger, condemnable crime earlier, they have spread so much that many people, they look other way and accept it. ये तो चलता है, ये तो होता ही है, इस इंडस्ट्री में तो होता ही है, यहाँ तो ये करप्शन है ही, यहाँ तो ये बातें होती हैं. So as the time has passed by, I'm not referring to any particular industry, I'm not referring to any particular profession, I'm not referring to any particular vocation, be it this or that or that. But now we have accepted, society has accepted that this is now common and this is going to stay. So the definition of crime has been changing over the time. Whether legal system has taken cognizance of it or not, that is different issue. Be it the drugs which were happening right under the nose, be it the corruption which is happening right under the people who are supposed to prevent it right under their nose or right under their pocket, the corruption is happening, or so on and so forth. So many things are happening, but we look other way. Now, coming back to the crime scene changing post unlockdown, as we are having unlock process. Let me look at this process from the point of view of a common man. As I said in my first two sentences, crime was basic thing defined was when an individual usurps the right of majority. When the majority process shift. Now, lockdown process, the corona process made everybody victim to a much bigger calamity. Everybody has suffered, minimum few thousands to minimum to few lakhs to few crores. Everybody has run into difficulty, whether social isolation, emotional isolation, financial difficulties, difficulties running basic expenditure. Everybody has undergone the crisis. And the crisis, the unprecedented crisis, a crisis for which nobody had any preparation, nobody had any intimation, nobody had any inkling that this kind of crisis would come. People having low emotional reserve are undergoing various kind of emotional disorder or psychiatric problem. People having low financial reserves are undergoing their crisis, which they can't describe to everyone. But all of us know people in our circle who are genuinely facing financial crisis, whether they were earning 20,000 a month earlier or 20 lakhs rupees earlier, as the grade may be. Now, as I said, since the number changes from an individual usurping the bigger right of the society, when that individual become more in number, and when he sees it as a majority, then he feels justified in doing that, what otherwise he would not have done it. Now, who defined this word majority? When 10 people assemble somewhere and when they think that they are a crowd, then they feel they have right to bulldoze anyone's property. Then they think they have right to fight with any individual. Then they think they have a right because they think they are in majority. Be it 10 politicians, be it 10 gundas, be it 10 civilian, even civilians, when they make a scene about shouting slogans and all that, they feel they are majority, or they become 10 to 20 to 30 to 40. So now here is a shifting number of people who are suffering. They are defining their own majority. Coming to the brass track, the incidents of waylaying, incident of chain snatching, mobile snatching, walking on the road in the morning walk, there are increasing number of cases coming to the light, and the number of cases which come to be reported in the police station may be far less than what they happen, because the process of going to a police station, this is ANSI, how much uh, how much one has time and one is ready to do that, and what results are going to be if you have lost a mobile or lost a watch or lost a wallet. Many people do not go to report this. So perhaps number of cases which get reported for small crimes, vis-a-vis number of cases which go unreported, understandably a huge gap in that. Now people are really suffering in this population of what is commonly called 135 crores. People are really suffering financially, which they had never suffered. So there is a struggle for survival. A struggle. I'm not endorsing anyone's crime. I'm not justifying anyone's bad act. Nor I have authority, nor I'm empowered, nor morally I do. Yet I'm just sharing my observation that people are feeling tempted to take away something which other people do have in plenty. People are playing with the car parts, people are playing with the car mirrors or the car stepney, because they justify it because they are in need for little money for the survival. And now bigger law system would justifiably and quite rightfully, or the police authorities would, if they get a chance to lay their hands on those people who commit these crimes, robbers, mobile snatcher, chain snatcher, they need to be punished, because if this is allowed to go unabated, then this would lead to bigger problem, law and order problem. So, but these people who are committing these crimes, they feel entitled, they feel justified because they have nothing in their hand. Now, number of such people who have much less to nothing in their hand, they may belong to a particular community, may or may not. They may belong to a particular state of society, may or may not. Because as we have been watching news for last few weeks or so, even people who are from the upper state of the society have no hesitation in doing many things which otherwise their parents wouldn't like to admit, as we have been watching day in and day out, because they feel that more and more people are doing it. So a trend is changing. What we used to consider crime in our formative years, in our young years, is no longer seen as a crime by people in that age. Smoking, now, not a crime as such, but smoking was avoidable. Now it's there. Dating, moving out in the car, or having illicit relationship, or illicit legitimate relationship. Now people are flaunting it openly, whether people belong to my family, your family, or film star's family, or this actor's family, or whatever it be. But this is now happening increasingly, and society cannot come with a heavy hand on this on day-to-day basis. And the legal authorities or the administration or political system had too many other things to remain busy with than to come down on this level. So, agreed, crime scene is changing, but I also feel the need for some other action, need for looking into these people's problem. I always, I always believe that there's some way crime scene can be prevented significantly if people are guided well in advance, if people are understood, if people are helped. Now, even a simple talk like the way we are talking over here go a long way in reassuring people कि भाई जब चार लोग मिलकर बात कर रहे हैं कि कोविड सीन, कोरोना scene, lockdown scene may not last much longer. Maybe we have gone through 6 months. Maybe we may have to go through 1 more month, 2 more months. हमने 6 महीने टॉयलेट किया जिसकी हमें उम्मीद नहीं थी कि हम 6 महीने टॉयलेट कर पाएंगे, मगर किया ना हमने। हम 1 महीना 2 महीना और कर लेंगे। जो हम लोग ये बात करते हैं तो किसी न किसी इंसान के दिल को छूती है, बजाय इसके कि उसके माइंड में नेगेटिव थॉट्स का एक्युमुलेशन हो रहा है, बिल्टअप हो रहा है, नेगेटिव थॉट बिल्टअप हो रहे हैं, उसके अंदर फ्रस्ट्रेशन बढ़ रहा है, उसके अंदर डिप्रेशन बढ़ रहा है, उसके अंदर अनसर्टनिटी बढ़ रही है, उसके अंदर फियर ऑफ फ्यूचर बढ़ रहा है, उसके अंदर स्ट्रगल फॉर सर्वाइवल की बारे में कोई उसका आंसर नहीं है, एंड ही इज फीलिंग टेम्पटेड फॉर ए शॉर्टकट आंसर विच अ कॉमन मैन फील. So we can prevent crime scene, we can prevent crime rate, we can change crime scene significant way whenever we have a dialogue like this. Whenever people who are experienced, people who are knowledgeable, be it from the Department of Police or be it Puneet and Chakravarti ji advocate, or be people from the behavioral science institute, and be it Mr. Lal who is doing the media conference untiringly over the last few months. This go a long way in subtly changing people's psychology, that our reserves are far more than we believe they are. We have seen it happening in the last few months. Our emotional reserves are far more. So anybody who is thinking of doing any crime should think, should wait, should introspect, should discuss with people who are more knowledgeable, who are more experienced, and then he would have way out rather than getting tempted for a shortcut route. Anything done by us, we can't wipe it off. We can't go away from it. So over to you, Mr. Lal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anand, for giving your views, especially about the crime. Although Dr. Anand believes that the crime rate has gone down, because he says the crime rate is not what I have mentioned, is not a bigger crime. There are other crimes which are bigger. Although I feel that the murder and the dacoity and the rapes are very big crime, but Dr. Anand, what he feels is that nowadays the society has changed, and the change has come that we have such types of crimes where the drugs are involved, where so many other activities are involved which were not there in the early stages. So according to him, the crime which is happening or which has increased in the unlock first is not that much big, because still the crime which is happening, which we are watching for last few months in the media, according to him, that crime is bigger than the what crimes were earlier, because people feel this is all to be granted. And as a psychiatrist, he says this, yes, the tensions have increased because of the financial tension, because of the health issues, many tensions have increased. But person should understand that these tensions will also go. We have to keep patience for some few more months. When we have already passed 6 months, the COVID will go, and once the COVID will go, then we have to become normal. So according to Dr. Anand, we should not indulge ourselves in any sort of crime. We should not even think about it, and we should all have tried to come out such types of media conference or other conferences, or other discussions where those who are expert in the fields must come and give their advices, so that the person who tends to do some crime can be forbidden by this. And according to Dr. Anand, one can do it because one has to keep himself mentally sound in this pandemic time. Thank you, Dr. Anand, for giving your views. Now I would like to invite my second guest. He is Mr. Ajit Kulshrestha. Mr. Ajit Kulshrestha is the former Additional Director General of CRPF. Mr. Kulshrestha did BSc in Biology and Masters in Economics from KR College, Mathura in 1974. He joined the ISA, Internal Security Academy at Mount Tabu in 1976. He is currently pursuing legal practice as an advocate in Supreme Court of India. He has served in Mizoram, Assam, Manipur, Tripura, Meghalaya, Kashmir Valley, Punjab, Odisha, West Bengal at various ranks and successfully completed challenging assignments in extremely difficult and hostile terrain and weather, fighting terrorists, militants, and outlaws, beside many important policing duties. He twice survived attempt on his life in ambush and bomb blast and successfully neutralized attackers, for which he was awarded Parakram Medal and Police Difficult Duty Service Medal. A well-trained police commando, he also served as Black Cat in NSG, National Security Guards, on deputation for more than 4 years, spanning 1992 to 1996. Mr. Ajit is also the lucky few to be the Chief of Rapid Action Force RAF, which is the Specialized Riot Control Police of India. As head of RAF, creation of RAPO, RAF Academy of Public Order Management, was his dream project and brainchild, which has now come up in Meerut, UP. With 38 years of successful career in Central Police Organization, he has been awarded with Parakram Medal, Police Special Duty Medal, Internal Security Medal, 50 Years of Independence Medal, Police Meritorious Service, and President Police Medal for Distinguished Services, which is the highest police medal, besides many commendations and discs of the DGs. Welcome, Mr. Kulshrestha, to our show. Mr. Kulshrestha, you have heard what Dr. Rajiv Anand has mentioned. Now, Dr. Rajiv Anand says that crime which were there earlier has now changed. The new crime has come, which were not there in the early time. And he says this crime which is happening nowadays were not there when, according to Dr. Rajiv Anand, he was young. And he says right now, because of the COVID-19, there is a definitely a pressure on psychologically, because of the financial pressure, because of the health issues and joblessness, etc. And that's why, according to Dr. Rajiv Anand, we must have such types of conferences, we must have discussions so that the person can be prohibited to commit any crime. And they should be guided that although 6 months have already passed, few more months, 1, 2, 3 more months will be again passed when the corona will go or the vaccine will come. So we should not try to do anything which will induce us to commit a crime. Now we would like to know the COVID-19 impact on crime by Mr. Ajit Kulshrestha, please.
Thank you, Mr. Lal, and my greetings to my co-panelists and the viewers. I agree on many things with Dr. Anand, and what you said. Firstly, I would like to add on to that. The data what we have given probably is doing comparison between what was the status in one particular area. That is a simple before opening up of the unlock or after. So if you see in a longer period, if you see the data for a period, like we see the share market, what is a week's performance, months, year, and that all, the crime rate, as Dr. Anand has also mentioned, the piddly crime, which was an opportunity crime, because of the crowd, because of the too much of movement, because of the easy way of getting it, they must have come down. But the crime, now I take the crime with something else. We had been knowing that Kam, Krodh, Mad, Lobh, greed, anger, envy, and distrust. I want to add in distrust in his own capability, distrust in the God, distrust in the governance. These are the elements which causes a man to leave the path of virtue and adopt the path of crime. Greed is something which it goes, I mean, something is your need. When you get into the greed also includes extra pleasure. It may be physical or relation, and the pleasure of political power, or pleasure of more money to flaunt your riches. Anger, of course, is one of the reasons for bigger crimes like murder and the other assaults, and that also includes. Envy is something which is there hidden behind, because I want to be better than my friend, or I want to be better in my future, or I want my at least son and daughters to be well off. I was poor, I'll accumulate money and they will be secured. And then is the distrust. Distrust, what all religion had been teaching us, to trust the God, thereby go on the right path. Don't do crimes. Trust God. He will take care of you in bad times. And of course, the governance. That also includes a myth that you think that during this corona or a situation like this, you will have easy way of, after committing crime, probably police will not reach, nobody will go to the police station, which is effect what Dr. Anand has also mentioned. And then you find that investigation and everything, and then help of the court, my friend Chaturvedi Saab jaisa log milne se, then you will find that it's not going to, I mean, this is somewhere, these are elements which do matter in a crime. And one more thing which I would agree and add on to that, the crimes are changing as per the society, as per the law. Law says that anything which is done by you, which is punishable as per the Indian Penal Code or any other act of that area in that time, is a crime. Rest is not. It may be immoral. So immoral things have been able to get themselves out from the list of crime as per the new interpretations which the Supreme Court has given, like adultery, in a lot of changes in same-sex marriages, same-sex, same gender things. A lot of changes are there. So my take on to this, now we are trying to find out human behavior vis-a-vis a crime, and the ecosystem, the atmosphere around, which has been created as a difficult one because of the corona pandemic. Lockdown period, yes, I think everybody will agree, because opportunity was not there, so the crime was down. The moment this is eased, people have come out. So even they are accumulating because of the fear that future something goes wrong, how will I be able to live? I believe that not everybody goes to commit crime because of the poverty. Luckily, our society is fine. We have a governance which has taken care of. I don't know how much has reached the last man needing it. And the God is kind that we have enough to eat, enough to keep everybody alive during this period and for coming period, months, or even year. So poverty is driving crime is something which needs to be looked into. I believe that if a person has been made virtuous, if he is being observed, if he is being controlled, and he is also controlling his inner traits, the crime is not the answer. Crime can be controlled. So we have to touch on all these things. And then I would like to come on one aspect, that the crime style, the cyber crime, I want to add. Without moving out from your home, you can do cyber crime. And I believe there is increase in the cyber crime because of the crooks are also getting literate. They are not like me and my some friends who are not able to handle the device on which we are talking to each other. There are very clever, intelligent fellows, crooks, and they are making money sitting at home in the comforts, and it's very, very difficult to catch them because of the dark net and what all these things no common man is not knowing. So this is one thing where we need to take care of that. One more aspect I would like to add is the media's interference in the crimes, where some importance is given. What we have watched for last 15 days or 20 days or a month, the moment you open any media, like British media or American media, they will start chasing one thing and they will go on with the same thing. You are fed up listening to them and they do media trial. It has got some direct impact. What we have seen after Nirbhaya case, what is Hyderabad, what has happened, and what has happened in UP. So this is one aspect I would like our panelists and you also to ponder upon, to find out in what way we can be of some help to somebody who will think on what we are talking about. So these are the things, my observation, and I believe now we have to see one thing. Policing has become a challenge after this pandemic. It's not going to go, it's not going to disappear. Like many other diseases, flu was there. You have the AIDS, which was there. If you recollect during the period of AIDS, how much hue and cry was there in media. Media is now much more in number. It is everywhere and everybody's reach in the palm. He has access to media and the whole world. We will have to learn. Even I was reading a report yesterday, somebody has said that even after the vaccine comes, vaccine is going to be as effective as mask. Vaccine may fail, but mask will not. My son is a epidemiologist. He is there in Emory University as assistant professor. So he is sending me the links and how things are happening around. So if we say that the moment vaccine will come, everything will be good, no, it's not going to happen. When we have zero reporting for months, even then we cannot take chance, because what we have seen everywhere, they have gone for unlock, and after a week they have again locked up. Israel, it is there, it is in some countries they opened their schools were closed, and for that you have paid a price of having a recurrence of the cases. So these are my points which I wanted to say what I know about it. And then when suggestion comes, I will take on to that.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kulshrest. Mr. Kulshrest also endorsed what Dr. Anand says, that the crime has changed. He says, yes, during the lockdown, the crime was not there because of the crowdness. Crowd was not there, so pickpocketing and all those types of crimes were not there. But now, after the unlock, crime has increased, and the comparison which I have given is from the lockdown and unlock. It is not a comparison the entire year or the last year. Definitely the last year crime was more than this year because of the restrictions which everybody knows. But we have to see why the crime has increased from a lockdown to unlockdown. It means either somewhere the society is changing the pattern, or the pattern is being changed, that once the lockdown has come, why it has increased. And according to Mr. Kulshrest, this pandemic or the corona will stay. Even if the vaccine will come, it is not that the day vaccine will come, it will finish. He says the cyber crime has increased. So we have lots of more challenges how to tackle all those crimes. And he says that the only way is that we have to create virtues among the citizens. And he has given the example about how those 5 enemies of a human being, which we have to control. And he says if we will control them, if we will keep them in check, then only we can control the crime, because the crime is due to those 5 enemies, which are the basic enemies of a person, whether it's anger, whether it's envy, or greed, etc. So thank you, Mr. Kulshrest, for giving your views. Now I'd like to move to our next panelist. He is Advocate Puneet Chaturvedi. Advocate Chaturvedi is representing a company called SC Chaturvedi and Company, Advocates and Consultants of High Court, Mumbai. He belongs to a family of lawyers for 4 generations, since his great-grandfather's time, having associate law offices across India. He has been practicing as an arguing counsel for the last 29 years and regularly appearing in the Supreme Court of India and various high courts across India. He has a distinction of having appeared in almost all the high courts of India. Besides being a practicing lawyer, Advocate Chaturvedi is taking LLM and LLB lectures in the University of Mumbai and other law colleges. He has also been addressing the annual law training lecture series conducted by Bar Council of Maharashtra and Goa on the Constitution of India. Advocate Chaturvedi has been writing legal articles and columns in magazines and websites, besides conducting lectures and workshops on law at several institutions, corporate houses, jails, medical firms, bar associations, etc. His article and speeches are widely held. Welcome, Mr. Puneet Chaturvedi, Advocate Puneet Chaturvedi, on our show. Advocate Chaturvedi, you have heard what Dr. Rajiv Anand has said. He has put his views as a psychiatrist, and he says there is a shift from the crime what was there in the earlier time and the new time. And he says, although because of the COVID, there is a lots of pressure, financial pressure and other pressures, but we have to keep ourselves very cool. Then only the crime can be avoided. According to Mr. Ajit Kulshrestha, the crime is because of the greed, envy, and all those 5 enemies which a person is having, and we have to create virtues. He says the crime has increased, the cyber crime has increased, although he is not agreeing with my figures in one way. He says the figures which I have given is from the lockdown and the unlockdown period, that is 1 month prior to unlockdown and after the unlockdown. But definitely he's right in one way, but he has to understand, or everyone has to understand, crime is crime. Why it is increasing, that is what we have to understand, that if in a 1 month's time of unlock so much crime has increased, what will be the future, what is going to happen? Now we would like to know the COVID-19 impact on crime. Mr. Advocate Puneet Chaturvedi, please.
Good morning, everybody. I am happy to join the august company of Dr. Anand, Senior Retired Police Officer, Mr. Kulshrestha, Serving Officer, Ms. Aishwarya, and of course our moderator, Ms. Goel. Primarily, law can be classified into 3 broader classifications and 2 sub-classifications. Now, if you observe whether the crime is of whatsoever nature, it is either against the physique or the body of another person, or the second classification, the crime is against the property. Third classification is where the crime happens against an abstract or an illusory aspect like reputation. Now, reputation is an abstract form. You cannot, it's not a tangible aspect like property or the physical body. So the crimes against reputation, like defamation, etc. Now, the 2 subcategories which can also be classified as offenses are the ones which are not proactive crime, but simpliciter violation of rules. For example, if there is a law that you have to stop at a red signal and move when the signal is green, though you have actively committed no crime, no accident happened, no harm to property, no harm to body, no harm to reputation has happened. Simply that you violated the rule, it is another type of an offense, so which can be a subcategory of offense. And recently, another category of an offense which had come into light after Domestic Violence Act, etc. of 2005, which is called emotional crime. Now, if you observe, this emotional crime was not recognized by the Conventional Crime Code of Indian Penal Code, IPC. This has been a new phenomenon where one can be accused of committing an emotional crime.
Actually,
yes. Now, these are the 5 broader classification of whatsoever crime is happening in this world. Whether it is, if you find the financial crimes happening, as Mr. Kulshrestha has mentioned, through cyber, because nowadays online frauds have been very common. As Dr. Rajiv Anand had pointed out, there are people who are not able to take the stress and then they indulge into so many crimes. But primarily, in the conventional sense, if you observe, the crime happens when there is human habitation. In the absence of human interaction, majority of the crime has no scope to happen. So what has happened during the COVID pandemic, due to the lack of human interaction, people were confined to their own respective homes. The number of conventional crime had a drastic reduction. They dipped. There were no road rages because there was no traffic on the road. There were no violation against a human because there were no human interaction. There were no murders, there were no dacoities, there were no rapes because there is no human interaction. What had increased? What type of crimes have increased during this pandemic? When people were within their premises and non-habitual of being confined to a place for such a long time, domestic violence within the premises have increased. Because people were not trained to be in the company of their own family members for such a long period of time uninterrupted. Some cases of instigation towards suicide have also been reported. Some people were so bored that they started consuming certain things which they were not habitual to. Now, cyber crimes have also increased because people in isolation were having nothing much but to use internet. And those who are not net savvy like us, I have come across a place in Jharkhand, a village called Jamtara. I've been told that the people from that place have been committing a cyber crime. They run a racket. The modus operandi is very clear. They send you a message, very alluring, very inviting, that you have won some good prize. Click here, click there, and your money would be transferred into your account. Please send your link. Please send your bank account number. Please send your this detail, and an amount would be credited. Instead, the amount gets debited. And when one feels cheated, you'd be surprised that people sitting various parts of India have been calling us that this has transpired with us. Now, trust me, as Dr. Anand as well as Mr. Kulshresh has pointed out, certain vices, human vices, which prompt one to commit crime. Greed is one factor which makes you victim of a crime. Being greedy, you enter into a zone which you are not habitual of. You enter into a zone which you are not trained in. Now, somebody touches the greed. One says that you would earn 1 crore rupee. Your number has been selected randomly. You are entitled. Please send the link so that the money can be transferred, and you immediately do that. Now, what your amount being debited from your account is just because you have been suffering from greed and you became a victim of a crime due to your greed. If somebody is not greedy, they're all right. I do not want that 1 crore rupees till I earn it. You cannot become a victim of a crime. Now, what has happened is that during this pandemic, conventional crimes have observed a dip, as Mr. Lal Goel has also, according to his own report from the state of Rajasthan, that the moment unlock happened, human interaction increased. Suddenly there was an upsurge of crime. And that's what my moot point is. that crime does not happen in isolation, except few, barring few, where you are just violating the rules. Suppose if you are kind of left isolated in a jungle, and if you are started cutting green trees, still you are committing a crime by violating the forest laws. Though you are in isolation, there is no human interaction. That's why I said there's a subcategory of committing crime where proactive crime is not there, but simplicity, violation of a rule becomes an offense. So what we need to understand is that the quality of human being in the society determines the crime rate. As Mr. Kulshesh has also said, that Kam, Krodh, Mad, Lobh, Moh, these are the basic vices which have been from our scriptures. One controls it, the crime rate dips. But as Dr. Rajiv Anand has also rightly said, that sometimes poverty also becomes an issue. You have a lot of desires, though you do not deserve. And sometimes those who do not deserve to have something but are run with a lot of desire, with the current scenario of extreme commercialization, people are enamored with the desires. They do not bother to notice or to introspect whether they deserve this or not. And that is where the shortcut to achieve those desires is become a crime. And I'm sure Mr. Sharia, who's in our current working, would find that this is what is the base. And that is why we need, according to me, to kind of monitor a situation as to where and in what situations, how much crimes happen, and what are the methods to eradicate those base points from which the crime emerges. I'm sure the more enlightened panelists over here who have already enlightened us, and I'm yet to hear Mr. Aishwarya, would enlighten us. Over to you, Mr. Lal.
Thank you, Mr. Chaturvedi, Advocate Chaturvedi, for giving your views. And Advocate Chaturvedi has classified the crime, the three proactive and two other subcategory crime. And he says that proactive crimes came down because of the lockdown. There was no human interaction. But the subcategory crimes where the violation of any rule or other things, or the emotional crime, which according to Advocate Chaturvedi, like domestic violence, we have seen the surge in those crimes. And that's why the crime is already there. And according to Mr. Advocate Chaturvedi, he also endorsed what Mr. Kulshrestha has said and what Dr. Rajiv Anand has said, that the vices, what we have in ourselves, especially the greed, is the main reason of the crime. And he says that we have to be away from this, and we have to check what type of monitoring now we have to do, because during the lockdown, there were no crimes or very less crimes. But now, after the lockdown has started opening up, we are in the now unlock positions. Recently, it's unlock 4. The crime can increase and increasing because of the human interaction. So according to Advocate Chaturvedi, one has to keep a monitor all these things. And he has given an example of a Jharkhand Jamtara's place where they are doing the cyber crime by sending the SMS, etc. So according to Advocate Chaturvedi, the crime is not the active crime. Those have come down due to the lockdown. But now, after the unlock, that crime has started is picking up. But the cyber crime has taken place even during the lockdown period. Thank you, Advocate Chaturvedi, for giving your views. Now I will go to our next guest. She's Miss Aishwarya Sagar, IPS. Miss Sagar is ASP Murshidabad, West Bengal. Hailing from Kerala, she did her graduation in economics and history from Lady Shri Ram College, University of Delhi. She wrote several articles and received many awards. She recently been awarded as on her essay on India's internal security challenges by the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel National Police Academy. Welcome, Ms. Aishwarya Sagar on our show. You have heard Dr. Rajiv Anand, Mr. Ajit Kulshrestha, as well as Advocate Chaturvedi. And according to all of them, the crime has changed. Earlier, those crime which were before the lockdown, before the COVID time, has come down during the lockdown. The active crimes like murder, dacoity, etc. But after the unlock period, those crime have started picking up again. But they says the emotional crime or those crime like domestic violence, etc., they started increasing even during the lockdown. It has increased, and Dr. Anand says that because of the pressure on mental pressure, the people become frustrated, and they were even involved in those things which were not there earlier, like drugs, etc. And according to Mr. Kulshrestha, it is because of our vices. We have to create virtues in among the public. Then only this crime can be controlled. And Advocate Chaturvedi says we have to come out with some monitoring thing so that the crime can be controlled. Now, you being a serving officer, an IPS officer, we would like to know the COVID-19 impact on crime. Ms. Aishwarya Sagar, please. Please unmute. Please unmute yourself.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
Hope I'm audible.
Yes, yes, please.
Good morning, Goel sir, and good morning to all my respected co-panelists. I'm so glad to attend this panel with all of you. So the topic especially, I'll just stick on to the topic of the impact of crime during COVID, like what happened before that and what happened after, especially the lockdown time. So I'll just stress on one point before starting. In any society, we can't take crime out of a society, because whenever people gather together, whenever there is inequality, crime is bound to happen, and that's why police is there. And as a serving police officer, I should say that the main function of the police is the prevention and detection of crime and the maintenance of law and order. So to take from this point, I would stress on what Chaturvedi sir had stressed upon. He had stressed upon like three particular points, like first starting from like how the crime is classified, starting from the bodily offense, then moving on to the property offenses, and then cyber crimes. Let me stress upon these 3 points first. Starting with the bodily offenses, I would take the two time periods. One is during the lockdown and one is post lockdown. So during the lockdown, it's as my co-panelist said, I agree with the point that bodily offenses had hit a rock bottom during that time. Because the people, the much of human interaction was not there during that time, that is for sure. But one point that we all often tend to ignore was the policing, that the night patrolling, the policing was on the streets. The police was down there, like when people were there in the lockdown and sitting at the home, the policeman was there on the streets. So everywhere, the visible police appearance during that time was one of the main reasons behind the bodily offenses coming down, especially that is related to murder and all. So the detection, the intelligence and everything, it's not that I'm saying that the pre-lockdown period, the intelligence was at low, like the murders were not prevented. It's not like that. The interaction, it is the possibility of the visible victim on the street. When you don't see a visible victim, these things like automatically comes down. So that was the point that happened at that time. And the bodily offenses, even if I say that murder and attempt to murder were low during that time, I can't ignore the fact that the crime against women had hit a high. The domestic violence cases had hit a high. So I am comparing this point, it's not just from the point of urban India. We also have to think it from the point of rural India, when the migrant laborers and the people who don't have, like they were daily wage earners, like they don't have the opportunity for their employment, they don't have the opportunity for their salary wages a day, and they were sitting at home. I agree with the point that the mental pressure was burdening up, and this led to the most possible victims are the women at home. So the domestic violence cases had hit a high during that time. And this process was continuing all throughout. Like the thing is, like when you sit at home for a population, for a crowd who is not used to sitting at home, and finally you are like compulsorily making them sit at home for a lockdown time, you can't give an immediate answer to them. So these kind of tensions and frustrations within themselves, it led to the crime against women, and that was at a high during that time. And the lockdown period, since we were serving during that time, we could clearly understand the women coming to the police station. But I differ with one point that the police is not approachable. The women were the people who were approaching police during that time, especially during the lockdown, and the complaints that were raised by the women were increasing. And one fact, sir, you have given the point of the crimes numbers that you have reported. The numbers which you have said, it also occurs due to the reporting of the crimes during that time. The police were approachable and the people were coming up with the crime figures, that is. And one more thing, I can't comment upon the crime figures during right now, because as a serving police officer, we should get the record from NCRB. Unless the NCRB publishes the data, I can't comment upon the data. So to begging to differ on that point, I would now move on to the property offense. Now the property offenses. So during the time of lockdown, when every shop was closed, every jewelry was closed, every textile, everything was closed. During that time, when people were returning to their homes without job in their hands, so that time we were doing proactive policing. Usually at the time when, because the burden of the police is increasing day by day, we always tend to react to policing. But proactive policing so like a much bigger hand during that time, because we knew in beforehand, because people don't have jobs or wages in hand. This is like going to have an impact on crimes or increase in crimes, including the housebreaking, burglary, theft, and robbery. This is bound to happen. And that too, not by like the unconventional methods or anything, by the most traditional means, this is bound to happen. We were sure of that. So during that time of lockdown, to prevent the property offenses, we were into proactive policing of monitoring each and every shops. Like in our locality, each and every shop, the policemen there were like every night, the policemen were there monitoring these shops, monitoring the ATMs there, and these kinds of things were happening. And when the unlock procedure started, when the first phase of unlock procedure, when the bank started issuing the stipends and everything, the money was issued to the people, and then they were approaching banks. That time, the snatching and everything happened during that time when people were returning like money from the banks when they were returning to their homes and all. Snatching and theft started during that time. Then our process has to shift from night patrolling and everything, from static patrolling, we have to move to mobile patrolling and everything to prevent that. So everywhere, like in each and every phase, the way of patrolling and the way of policing, we had to shift accordingly. And the same unlock procedure which is continuing over time, this also happens with the shift in policing. Every time policing has to change in accordance with the time, because we have to anticipate what is going to happen, and then we move on accordingly. So this is how the property offenses and everything takes a turn. Now I'll come to one important point, that is cyber crimes. Cyber crimes is one of the things which increased maximum during this lockdown time. Why? Everybody were depending on their mobile phones, to their internet means, to access their banks, to access everything, even for the shops and everything, they were using their mobiles. That is like this time, like the digitalization so high during this time that we can't differentiate between urban and rural India. Everybody had a smartphone in their hand. So these kinds of things, like spamming and phishing, were the main crimes during this time. The phishing calls that people used to get to the, like, especially in the rural India, we used to get the maximum number of cases when people will call and ask, like, we are from banks, we need your OTP, we need your card, the CVV number, everything. And the people unknowingly, like, hearing that, like, they are from the authentic people from the bank, they started giving these kinds of things. And then to trace these people during that time, because mainly in the cyber crimes, to locate a criminal, because the criminal is in an unknown arena. Because when it comes to property offenses or bodily offenses, locating of a criminal, okay, this is a person, you can locate it easily. But when it comes to a cyber crime, it requires a lot more effort to locate the person, because the person is unknown here. So these kinds of things, the cyber crime like just increased its domain. Like I can't just limit it down to spamming or phishing, because spamming and phishing were much there before the lockdown itself. So this time what happened was that when the people were accessing their bank accounts, there were many kinds of ransomware softwares that were introduced that were extorting money from people. And also, even to the point of like the medicines, that is the main thing I should stress upon. The medicines, using these kinds of software, when people were accessing to the medicine, many kinds of illegal drugs were also supplied to people. So all these happened via the cyber domain. And also, like when you have access towards the mask, the N95 mask, in every small thing that the people needed during this time, N95 mask and everything. These things, when you access it via the internet, there was a spam involved there. So everything, people were like, the opportunities to meet a person directly beforehand were less. They were using it via the virtual domain. So here the crimes were like, it increased the manifold or increased the multiplicity in their domain in which they were used. So police has to be more technically accessible to get approach and to get access to these criminals. So this is the one domain that the crime has increased to. Now coming to one more thing that I should like particularly stress upon. Since we were talking about crimes all throughout, there is one area that we didn't stress about, that is crime investigation. Because whenever there is a crime, there are persons who are investigating that also. So since like the Chaturvedi sir has right now talked about, so I would stress upon one point in that. The one point is that handcuffing of the criminals. It said that police should not handcuff the criminals. It's illegal to handcuff them. The handcuffing the criminals depends on their possibility to escape. If the criminal is having it does not mean like the criminal should be however dangerous or something, nothing like that. If there is a possibility to escape, depending on the gravity of the possibility to escape, you can handcuff the criminal. It is by law. But here, every criminal has the possibility to escape right now, because without maintaining the social distancing, when you maintain the social distancing, how is it possible for a police to catch a criminal? Because when you arrest a person, according to law, you have to touch the body of a person to arrest a person. When the social distancing is there and the COVID is the norm of the day, the policeman who is a regular human being, it is impossible for him without touching a person to arrest a person. So how can a social distancing be followed there? So policing also has to change its norm and everything. Actually, the law has to change and modify according to the norm that COVID is the norm of the day to support policing right now, which is not happening. So the criminal investigations, it seems during this time also, like all these, like I can't say there is 100% conviction or the 100% detection in the crimes during this time, because much of the focus of the policing were shifted to the COVID, the maintenance of lockdown, and so many things it were shifted to. But still, there has been crime prevention and detection during this time. There has been detection of burglaries, dacoities, everything during this time. It's not that the policing came to a standstill. But the thing is that the law has to be modified according to keeping in view that the COVID is the norm of the day, and then the policing has to be supported for the prevention of the crime. And then I'll just tell about one point. Crime can be prevented from a macro level and not from a micro level. Micro level, it has to be within the community going down to this, like the different groups, and then coming down to the family. And it is not possible to classify each and every person into one domain and like to the, like according to their virtues and all, because as a serving police officer, I don't find it like easier from this. This will take, it has been like 70 years this is happening, and over the years the process will continue also, because education and everything comes as a point of view in that. Only thing is that the crime can be prevented at the macro level. So when you consider this society at the macro level and when you consider the crimes, it's not like the crimes were there actually before the lockdown, crimes were there during the lockdown and after the lockdown. Only thing is that I do agree with the point, when the human intervention, whenever the human intervention lessens, the crimes also lessen. The most relevant example of that is the road accident, because there has been like examples from all over the country where the road accidents were at its peak. When vehicles doesn't come on the road, like there is no point in road accidents at all. So this is the point that happened. Like whenever like something is available in abundance and when it comes down, the crime automatically reduces. But from a point of view of the policing, crime can't be taken out of the society. The crime will continue. So the COVID, what it has to be, what we have to understand is that till the vaccine comes up and till everybody gets immune to this kind of a virus here, we have to accept it as the norm of the day, and we have to move on with the society as a society, and we have to understand that it is not something new that is happening right now. It's not these crimes that are rising right now. It's like that We have to accept it as a norm of the day, and policing as a community is there to prevent the crimes, and they are trying their best also with all these limitations which is available at this point of view. Policing is trying its best to prevent the crimes also. So that is what I have to say.
Police is trying its best to prevent the crime with even the within the limited resources or limited things. Said Miss Aishwarya Sagar, IPS, and she has very clearly mentioned that it is not that we should think that only because of the lockdown the crime has gone down. It is because of the effective policing. Yes, I do agree with Miss Aishwarya, because the rating of police pre-COVID was about 29%, but during the lockdown, the rating has gone up to 70%. The people who have voted, they say that they have full faith in the Indian police, and that has gone up to 70%. And she said that because the police was there, although during the lockdown, the shops, the commercial organizations, the malls, they were all been locked, but it was having more chances for the burglary and loot. But because of the effective policing all over India, no such incidents took place. And that is why, because she said that because the people were jobless, they were having no money, and they are going back to their homes. At that time also, it can happen. But because of the effective police all over India, nothing has happened. And he has also mentioned, she has also mentioned about the domestic violence. She says domestic violence has increased, and she is not agreeing what Dr. Anand said. And she says, no, it's not like that. The reporting was less, rather reporting were more. And that's why the figures which has come out, which I have read it for the Rajasthan figure, is because the reporting is there. And the police is doing the policing very effectively. But she also said there are limitations, and one of the limitations is about the social distancing. If a culprit is arrested, or then how to arrest, because as per the law, one has to touch the body, the police person has to touch the body, then only the accused is called to be arrested. But because due to the social distancing, one cannot do it. After all, the police is also a human being. But there are so many things which the police people have suffered. But in spite of that, they have tried to control. And according to Ms. Aishwarya, the crime will remain. Whenever there is a society, crime cannot be removed. But if we have to control the crime, we have to take the macro control, not on a micro basis, because we have to see how it is the society, because it all depends, the crime depends how the society is behaving. So according to Ms. Aishwarya, it is because of the effective policing that during the lockdown also, if the crime has come down, it is what the main reason is the policing, effective policing. Thank you very much, Ms. Aishwarya, for giving your views. And I can say, yes, these are the views from a serving police officer, very frank views, and you have given the real picture, which, to be very frank, till now we were thinking that because we all were locked down in the rooms, houses, that's why the crime has gone down. But the real picture which you have said is, it is one of the reasons, but the main reason is the police was effective, because there were night curfews everywhere, the police were there. So that is one of the reason. The main reason is that effective policing. Thank you very much, Ms. Aishwarya, for giving your views. Now my question to Dr. Rajiv Anand is, Dr. Rajiv Anand, as you said, the stress. Yes, everybody knows the economy has gone down. Our GDP has gone down 24%. Job lost crores, no proper data is there, but we know that many people have lost their jobs. Money is not there. It is definitely putting a pressure or stress on everybody's mind. Do you think this stress, financial or the loss of job, stress tends to commit crime? Do you agree with this? If yes, what is the solution?
Let me begin with the solution first. This program like this, when there's a convergence of 4 or 5 different mind, yours, Mr. Kushesh, Ashwarya, Advocate Manish Trivedi, what we discuss over here, many small concepts, many bright ideas come out. And people who are viewing it in Bihar or in UP or in Karnataka or in Kerala or through Global TV in different part of the globe, that they get touched by these thoughts. If a particular person is getting pushed or getting tempted for greed or for earning quick money, whether through small crime or through cyber crime, Mr. Lal, let me compliment, congratulate you, and let me make you realize that this kind of program are doing a great service. This is a part of a solution. Because if a person, say for example, if I'm a father, if I'm feeling tempted to do a crime, cyber crime, to earn a lakh or 5 lakh rupees in a day, and if I think that should I not? Now, had I gone ahead and would have succeeded in committing that crime in earning lakhs of rupees, then my son would have been encouraged to follow my footprints. So I would have been giving birth to another person who is going to be criminal, and then next, and then next, and next chain of people. Suppose if I get caught committing crime and I am punished for that, then my son and my other people in the family are also going to be punished for the crime which they have not committed, their father have committed. Now, programs like this, social awareness, orientation, healthy educational system, healthy input by people who are placed well, who have the ability to think from a different perspective, whether Mr. Chaturvedi, Mr. Kulshresh, Aishwarya, all of us should contribute your great platform being provided. Many people would think not to do that. I agree with your first part. The circumstances are unprecedented to each one of us. The pressure is unbearable to many of us. The temptation for easy way out are lurking for many of us, whether cyber or the kind of crime. Prevention is better. These programs conducted by you would go a long way, and input provided by each of my co-panelists would be extremely fruitful to many, many suffering people. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Anand. And I cannot say, but what he said is he has complimented the program, this media conference. He says that these types of social programs or orientations can help to distress a person if he is being lured by to commit some crime. You can say, he will be disheartened to commit crime after viewing such type of programs. Thank you very much, Dr. Anand, for acknowledge our program. And if yes, our enjoyer or we want that even if one crime can be stopped by this
Exactly.
program, I think that is a success of a program. Thank you, Dr. Anand, for giving your views. Now, my question is to Mr. Kulshrest. Mr. Kulshrest, uh, economy is very down. Everybody knows. I am receiving reports from North India, the industrialist. They says the incidents of loots and thefts increased. What you think about it? Or do you think this will increase further? Because right now it is not, although it's a lockdown is there, but still people have a fear to come out. But once it will be completely normal, do you think because of the economic condition of the country, because of the economic financial condition of a person, this loots and thefts will increase further? Mr. Kulshesh, please.
Yeah. Uh, uh, After I spoke, I heard two of my co-panelists, and I must congratulate them for bringing up not many things, especially Aishwarya saying good about police action, that police was proactive despite very hard time, which has helped in containing the crime. I partially agree with her, and it's very good, and they should continue to do it. Now, coming on to this incident of the uh, crime which has increased, as you rightly said, it must be true. People who are now under distress because, of course, they may be able to have their food twice a day or once a day or poverty. It's out of compulsion. Only thing is this, where I said distress, they don't trust that today is something I will have, but what will happen tomorrow? So these things are there. I'll mention about one thing which is related to our hometown, Mr. Lal, Mathura. And I was a young boy when Mathura refinery was to be started. That road people used to say, never go like that, because there were the communities, there was villages, they were indulging in road weighing, laying the, and what sort, all crime which can be committed on the road, looting and everything. Then refinery came. And after that, I was interacting with the local police officer when I grew up after the industry has come. The crime on the road, the loot has almost stopped. I said, what has happened to that? He said, everybody who was indulged in this, they are now the truck owners, which is supplying goods to the refinery and take. So one opportunity has come, they have energy, they have a desire, or maybe the need. So where to go? If they find an opportunity, they will do that. So this is out of compulsion. This is not going to last in case if we are able to see that the jobs are created, not in government parlor only. It is a parlance. It should be we have to engage people in a fruitful, honest way of earning whatever capability they have. And the crime can be controlled. Some crime is out of the compulsion of the society. Inequality is one of them. If somebody has become rich by doing it wrong, it's a good. You follow that up. You are caught, you are gone. If you are not caught, you are a rich man. You can be very rich man. So that's what they say. Committing crime is not wrong. Being caught after committing crime or just being accused is a crime. So this, what you said, I 100% agree with this. And the solutions are there in ensuring that inequality is reduced to the extent and everybody is given a job, given an opportunity for having some assignment, some work to sustain and to contribute for their family, for themselves, community and the nation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kulshrestha, for giving your views. Now, I would like to ask Advocate Chaturvedi. Advocate Chaturvedi, nowadays there is some order has been passed by Supreme Court that if the offense committed up to which where the provision of the punishment is of so much years, less than so many years, then that accused has to be immediately left out on the bail. One. Secondly, because of the COVID problem, many of the jails have been allowed to give the convicts or the accused the bail or the parole. Do you think this is one? It is one of the reason in increase in crime rate? Advocate Chaturvedi, please unmute yourself. Please unmute. Advocate Chaturvedi, please unmute. Yes, yes, please.
Lalji, as far as you saying that the Supreme Court has said that the bail has to become a norm, bail has been a norm since 90s. From Jogendra Kumar's judgment, if you go, Supreme Court has been of the view that the premise of law, the basic maxim is bail, no jail. Like most of the people have to be given the fundamental right of guaranteed under Article 21 of the Constitution of India, that live life and liberty. So liberty being the fundamental right, and again the basic premise of law that unless proven guilty a person is innocent, one need not to be confined to jail for unreasonable grounds. And the police has to be sanitized. That now after if you see section 41A being amended into the CRPC that has been brought in, that the police in major crime has to first summon the person by giving notice under section 41A to inquire before registering even a FIR. The police, although the norm has been that once a cognizable complaint has been given to the police is bound to register a FIR. But now with the introduction of 41A, the police is also mandated to inquire before registering an FIR, which Aishwarya must be dealing almost on a daily basis, that their police is now bound. Now, again, in my view, the courts sometimes have been in a balancing factor to protect the liberty of citizens, have been slightly unfair to police, because police have been burdened with so many rules and so many norms that you have to do this, you have to do that, forgetting that on the ground, what the police is facing cannot be imagined sitting in the courtroom in a very convenient environment. Now, see, there has also been rules and regulations that when somebody is trying to run away from your custody, you have, and if you are
Advocate Chaturvedi, please be brief because of the paucity of time, and we have to take answer from Ms. Aishwarya also. Please, my request to you.
All right, all right. So on a lighter note,
Yeah.
I, being agreeing to all the panelists, I tend to disagree with Ms. Aishwarya on only one point, that when she said that during this COVID, the crime against women were in increase, she forgot that there were crimes against husbands also. We have all been tortured during this lockdown. And had I been under in the jurisdiction of Murshidabad, I was not. I must tell Ms. Aishwarya that I was not even allowed to lodge a complaint against my wife. She has been the happiest, and during this lockdown, I have learned a lot of new things. कैसे झाड़ू लगाई जाती है, कैसे बर्तन मांजे जाते हैं, मुझे आइडिया है.
Thank you, Advocate Chaturvedi, with your lighter note. And now I would like to ask Ms. Aishwarya. You have mentioned that during the lockdown, so much policing was done. So due to heavy duty of police in COVID time, as well as many police personnel suffered and few died because of Corona. Do you think now police, now after this post-lockdown, police is not in position to keep crime in control?
Sir, I would say that it's not like the policing has changed or the police is not in a position to keep the crime under control. There is nothing like that. The only point that is involved here is that the police administration has a tough time at hand to motivate the morale of the entire police force. So the police administration has a tough time right now. Because the thing is that when the police personnel are going back to their homes and facing their families, they are like isolated, completely isolated sometimes from their families, because when they get in touch with their families, they also like, there has been many cases of the families coming in contact with them and they also contacting the disease and the virus, and many casualties occurred due to that also. So the thing is that now the duty of the police administration is to keep the morale high of the police force to continue our daily. Our bread and butter is like prevention of crime and maintenance of law and order. That is our bread and butter. But to maintain that and to keep them under the society, to uphold the norms of the society and everything, the police force has to come together. So keeping their morale is like the high is there are right now the point of view. And one thing I can assure is that like whatever troubles happen and whatever like pandemic situation or whatever crisis is there, a man in uniform, like I should not say a man in uniform, the person is uniform. As a woman, I should not say that. The person in uniform is always a solace to the society down there. Whenever a crisis occurs, like I might sound metaphorical, but I'm simply saying that from the point of view of a normal citizen of this country, sir. Whenever a crisis comes, the first we'll call upon God. If you are a believer, you will call upon God. That is the first thing. The second, when you see a police like person in uniform standing over there, it's a solace that something good will happen. Like I will be safe from the situation. So we can't like fall like from our morale or our weakness, like something. It's not like having the fear. It's like facing the fear and overcoming the fear. That's how we became more powerful. That is the norm right now. So I'm sure that like the situation at hand, it won't affect the policing. Only thing is that we have to live with COVID, the situation of the virus as the norm of the day, and the policing will continue as such.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Aishwarya. Sorry because of the paucity of time, we cannot take the suggestions this time. Next time, definitely. But hats off to the police department. Definitely, because of them, we are safe. And our responsibility as a civil society is to follow whatsoever the guidelines the government has issued. So today you have seen the views, the COVID-19 impact on crime, the expert views, different views from the psychiatrist to the former police ADGB and the leading advocate and the serving police officer, and they have given their views. I am sure today's program is very, very enlightening to all of you. But our endeavor and today's program, which has been a live telecast by V4 News, V4 Stream, Global TV, Malnadu TV, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarokar News, as well as it was shown live on Facebook and YouTube. And our endeavor is to bring every day something new. And as today's panelists have agreed that we should not have the stress on the mind, keeping in that in view, tomorrow our program is a very, very light and entertaining program. Media conference with Lal Goel, Rag Ek, Rang Anek. Yes, we know that the music, we have the rags. So one rag with different songs, film in the films which were used by the same on the same rag. And the artist who is going to perform tomorrow is Pandit Sukhdev Chaturvedi. He is a Dhrupat vocalist, Darbanga Gharana, Mumbai. And the person who is going to give him the sangat or on tabla is Tabla Ustad Tahir Hussain Khan. So tomorrow, please tune in at media conference with Lal Goel at 10:30 a.m. to watch this very entertaining show. Thank you very much, Dr. Rajiv Anand. Thank you, Mr. Ajit Kulshesh. Thank you, Mr. Advocate Puneet Chaturvedi. And thank you, Ms. Aishwarya Sagar IPS for joining and giving your very, very valuable views. Thank you all.